First one says, is it better to display the full address, including home, building, office, or suite number in a GBP, or is it providing just the general street address enough? Since multiple businesses might share the same street address, showing an exact address help Google better identify the business. Yeah, I recommend you do so, because that is a unique identifier, like a suite number, box number, office number, whatever. You know what I mean? I think it's important to do that. So even though I know, like, in a lot of the times you can have, there'll be street address, and then street address 2, and street address 2 is where you would put like a box number, suite number, office number, etc. What I typically recommend is actually putting the box number, street number, office number, etc. in the actual street address one, like the main street address field, because because otherwise it can be omitted in the display sometimes, where it will just display the street address without the suite number. And if a business, a customer's trying to go to the business and it's not displayed, then that could confuse them. And also I found that it can cause problems, because the way that different citation or business directories will list things, sometimes they have the street address 2 option, sometimes they don't. So you have to include it street address 1 anyway when they don't provide that option. So just to standardize the format, I typically recommend, if there is a suite number, box number, etc., that you just include that in the street address 1 field, right? Which is street address plus the street number, suite number, or whatever, and then city, state, zip, etc. Hopefully that's clear. But yes, it's a unique identifier for multiple businesses at the same address. Okay. Additionally, for businesses operating from their homes, including the full address approved GBP rankings. And how should home-based businesses handle this concern to maintain privacy? Yeah, we talked about this, I thought, last week. But having a Google Business Profile street address displayed, or having the street address displayed in a Google Business Profile absolutely improves local search performance. I've tested this myself personally with several of my own tree care lead gen assets that it was probably a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago now, but I did a specific test and I shared the results in the mastermind, where I did it for 3 different GBPs that were lead gen assets of mine that had the hidden street address, because they were service area businesses that were registered to, not really acceptable office locations. I had several of them were PO box locations, which Google told, was very clear about that being against their acceptable use policy. But you could still get them registered and verified years ago. You can't now. It's well, maybe sometimes, but it's very, very difficult to do. And so I went in and updated and made the address public for 3 of my lead gen assets. I got away with it for the first 2, and the third one triggered re-verification. That one is still live and on the web today. It still can generate leads, but I'm unable to edit that GBP now. I can't change it. I can't modify it. I can't publish posts. Can't do none of that stuff, because it triggered re-verification when I made the address public, or displayed the address, and I'm unable to re-verify it because it's video verification now. I'm not gonna be able to re-verify it, is what I'm saying. But the first 2 that I was able to make that update for, change to, where I displayed the street address, those both it was on a Friday that I did it, and on a Monday I reran the logo, because these were 2 underperforming GBPs that I had neglected anyways. And so I ran the local search grid report on Friday. I made the changes on Friday where I displayed the street address. And then on Monday, I reran the local search grid reports, and both of them significantly improved in maps search, including the proximity, or the area with which they were ranking in the top 3. So it went from a little bit of green in the map to a big area of green, from just that change and that change alone. And it did with both locations. So I already knew that was likely going to happen, but I wanted to prove it. So I did that specific test, and sure enough, without a doubt, it works, and it works really well, and works quickly too. So I always recommend publishing a street address. When somebody says, how should we do to protect privacy? I always recommend to the client, I tell tree contractors, it's against Google's terms of service or acceptable use policy to publish your street address when you're a service area business and clients don't come, or customers don't come to your office location, which in tree service contractors don't. But I tell them, like, customers don't come to the tree contractor's house or place of business, which is usually their house. Okay. So, but I tell them, if we publish your street address, you will get better search performance. Period. understand. So I recommend to all of my tree contractors that that we publish their street address, but I always clarify that or disclaim up front with like, listen, you understand, you have to be aware that there is a level of risk. If we publish your street address, it could very well likely trigger re-verification or suspension. As long as you have a real valid business location, even if it's your home, as long as your business is really run out of your home, then we are very likely able to get your GBP reinstated or re-verified if re-verification is triggered. But keep in mind that you have to make sure that the client is aware of that before you encourage them or recommend or suggest to them that they make that change, and make sure they're aware of the risks. Because otherwise, if you end up making the change and making it public and it gets suspended and they were not made very clear about that potential risk, then you're going to look like the jerk and you could potentially be sued and everything else. No kidding. So you got to make sure that that's an agreement up front. It's made clear up front. And then if they agree to it, then go ahead and make the change. Okay. And that's what I would recommend doing. I tell all my tree guys, let's publish the street address. Just be aware that it could trigger it. If you don't, if a client says, well, I don't want my home being shown, then you have to also have that discussion with them. Like, please understand that yes, we can still help you to get better results if you have a hidden address, but Google business profiles perform a lot better with a published street address. So is there a reason why you don't want your street address shown? If you're worried about it, then fine, we can leave it unpublished. Just know that it's like going into a fight with one arm tied behind your back. See what I'm saying? You're restricting our ability to get you results. So again, you just got to clarify with the client. Right? Moving on.